Hey, welcome back to Room 237. This is John. So this video is going to be a response to Rambo Rat for Life, who is my favorite YouTuber. I've been watching him for about 7 years. He's the reason why I'm doing this. Ever since I started watching him, I just wanted to do YouTube reviews. I think it was about a year ago, he started doing a series of videos where he would take like an actor or a filmmaker and he would show his collection, more or less rank them, but just go through the collection and then just have a discussion of that person in general. So I decided to do that today, and I'm going to be ranking these films because this is the only person I have where I have all his movies. I'll be ranking them from worst to best, and that is Quentin Tarantino. He's my second favorite director behind Martin Scorsese, but he's got a different feel to him. I love Tarantino movies. Out of all of them, there's only one I could say I really don't care for, but even then, that movie's not really terrible. And these are just movies that are Quentin Tarantino films. I'm pretty sure he wrote Natural Born Killers, but that's an Oliver Stone film. I think he helped write and he co-starred in From Dusk Till Dawn. That's a Robert Rodriguez film. He helped produce other things, like a lot of people think Hostel is a Tarantino film. That's Eli Roth. These are ones that are written and directed by Tarantino. Actual Tarantino films. So I guess I have them. Probably should put them in order first. I was smart. But I didn't. There we go. That's better. Alright. So, also, he says he's made 8 films. Technically, he's made 9. Because, he counts Kill Bill as one long movie. I have the 2 volumes. I don't have it as one cut. So I will be ranking the 8 movies. My nose is still stuffed up from the last video, so I apologize for that if I sound funny. But the first one, this is the only way I could hold this up because this is how I own it. But that is Grindhouse. Now, I like the experience of Grindhouse. Half of it is Robert Rodriguez, half of it is Tarantino. This is supposed to, for those that don't know, this was a big thing that Tarantino and Rodriguez was trying to do. They were trying to create a 70s Grindhouse theater experience. There's all these fake trailers. The film is really gritty. It's a double feature. The film will crack, like the reels will fade out. I'll say we're missing some reels. And, it has like the concession stand ads from the 70s. Eli Roth's Thanksgiving trailer is probably my favorite part of this whole experience. Rodriguez's film is Planet Terror, which is like a zombie movie. And then Tarantino's is Death Proof. And that's what I'm going to be talking about, is Death Proof. That's the one I could say I don't really care for. This is going to sound really stupid, but I think it's too talky. Now, I know saying a Tarantino film is too talky is really stupid, because a lot of his films are just dialogue. But I guess I could hold this up also. That's like what the actual cover looks like. It's basically just 2 stories. It's Kurt Russell. He's this sociopath who finds groups of women, hunts them down with his death-proof car. He's a stuntman, and he just rams into them. I think it's incredibly boring. The dialogue isn't interesting like it is in other films. I just don't really have much to say about Death Proof. And it's only an hour and a half. Which, usually Tarantino's known for being well over 2 hours for everything. Oh, excuse me, over 2.5 hours. But, this is still like a 3-hour experience. Yeah, 191 minutes for the whole thing. So, but that's that's Death Proof. Like I said, I like the whole thing of Grindhouse, the whole experience. I just don't like Death Proof. Next we have Kill Bill Volume 2. Which I thought was still a fun movie. This is more of a Western than the martial arts film that the first one is. But it wasn't as grand. It felt kind of... I didn't feel like there was a lot of payoff at the end of this. But there's still some things I liked about it. I like it enough to where I can say I like it as a movie. So that is 9, 8. At 7, we have Kill Bill Volume 1. There's some crazy shit in this. I first saw this back when I was in like junior high because my grandfather would rent everything. And I had no interest in it. I didn't really care. And then in the last couple of years when I was getting into Tarantino, I was like, well, I should probably see Kill Bill. And I did, and I had a lot of fun with it. Uma Thurman's actually fun to watch when she's kicking everyone's ass. Which I've never really been a big Uma Thurman fan outside Tarantino films. But yeah, I'm also not really into like the Japanese martial arts films, but this one's really fun. 6, we have Jackie Brown. This is his blaxploitation film. I really don't know how to summarize this shortly because there's a lot of shit that goes on in this movie. I mean, a lot. You have a great performance by Samuel L. Jackson, as always. This was his second movie with Tarantino. My favorite actor, Robert De Niro. Which kind of sucks because he's not in the movie a lot. And... the first half of his screen time, he's just doing that De Niro, like he doesn't really say or do anything till like towards the end. Kind of a heist movie, kind of a, like a who's playing who, kind of a hustle of a movie. I've only seen it a couple times, but I still really do enjoy it. It's definitely a Tarantino film. And I guess I'll save it for when I get into the discussion, but almost every movie he does like a different genre. And he loves exploitation films of the 70s. This is his blaxploitation film. 9, 8, 7, 6. And number 5, this might surprise some people. A Reservoir Dogs. If it wasn't for like that a middle part where we see Mr. Blonde talking to Joe for a very long time, I think the film should have stayed in the warehouse. I think that would have been better. I like movies that take place in one place all day. Or like it's in one setting. For the like Clerks, it's in the convenience store throughout the whole movie. You get a couple glimpses of other things. This was Tarantino's first movie. This is a really beat up edition that I bought used. But, this really sets the stage for the kind of film that you're going to see later on in his career. You get some really fun lines. Pretty much the story is there's all these guys in suits and thin ties. They go to do this diamond store heist. It goes wrong. A lot of them die. A few of them meet up at this rendezvous point in this empty warehouse. And that's the movie. You find out who's the snitch, how were the cops onto us, what the hell do we do? And you don't ever see the heist itself, which I thought was a great idea. A lot of what you see in this would go on to be probably his most popular movie, which I'll get to. So yeah, that's Reservoir Dogs. I have to count every time for some reason. At number 4, we have Django Unchained. This is part of his historical white people are evil. Django was a slave turned bounty hunter. He goes to the worst slave plantation, which is run by Leo DiCaprio, which is probably one of the best roles. I say next to Wolf of Wall Street this is DiCaprio's best performance. He goes there to save his slave wife, who was sold separately from him as like punishment. This has wonderful scenes of like horrificness and music, and 166 minutes. Yeah, almost all of his movies hover between 2.5 and 3 hours. Yeah, it probably should have ended after a certain point towards the end. It sort of goes on for a half hour too long. But there still is a lot of good stuff in here. Very, very entertaining. It's funny, it takes place in the 1860s before the Civil War, but there's like several points where there's like a hip-hop soundtrack. I'll get to Tarantino and music after this countdown, but yeah, Django's at number 4. At number 3, this is going to shock a lot of people. Pulp Fiction. Yes, that's number 3. I will say this is definitely his most rewatchable, his most quotable, and his most fun. There's just 2 that I put above it, basically for story. But, I mean, what can I say about Pulp Fiction? There's so many. Like, out of all of them, this one is the hardest for me to choose what my favorite part is. A lot of the parts I don't even think I could say. Like, my favorite part is when they're at Jimmy's house, played by Tarantino, and he asks Jules if his garage had a sign saying, "Is this some kind of storage?" He asks if it's a certain kind of storage. But such a fun movie. Like I said, most rewatchable, most quotable. I don't really know of anybody that doesn't like this movie. I fell in love with it the first time I saw it. My dad and my brother, once we get going, you can't stop us quoting this. It is so much fun. I love Pulp Fiction. Number 2, this is probably really going to surprise people, but it's his newest film, The Hateful Eight. Tarantino himself has said this is pretty much his film, Reservoir Dogs, mixed with John Carpenter's The Thing, because it's all in one setting. It's freezing with the snow. It's a lot of people like what's the word I'm looking for? The deconstruction of trust. And basically everything just goes to shit by the end of the movie. It's very Agatha Christie, which I'm a big fan of. I love stories by Agatha Christie. Like, And Then There Were None, which this is very much like. This is one of the most beautifully scored films I've ever seen too. Like, out of all of them, like, Tarantino's known for his soundtracks, but also his scores. He will have some original music, but he'll also take unused or used music from older movies or shows. and there's a scene with poison coffee. And the music is unused music from John Carpenter's The Thing. And that is one of the most beautifully orchestrated scenes of music and what is going on screen that I've ever seen in my life. It is one of the most perfectly orchestrated scenes ever, in my opinion. And I have seen this a bunch. I used to watch this at least once a week. I couldn't help it. I loved it. There's two versions. When it was in theaters, it was like 3 hours, 15 minutes. And then this is like just under 3 hours. This is also the first one where Samuel L. Jackson is like the star. But yeah, that's number 2. And my number 1 favorite film by Quentin Tarantino is Inglourious Basterds. Again, part of his White People Are Evil trilogy, along with Hateful Eight, Django. I never find this movie boring. I find it always interesting. It's always fun. I love the story about how there's the troop of Jewish American soldiers going around killing Nazis, and then they get this involved with British espionage to kill the command of the Third Reich. And then this character, this French Jewish girl who owns a movie theater, comes up with another plan to kill the same people, like Hitler and all his top-ranking men. This character up here, who's pretty much Hitler's in it, but this guy's the main bad guy. Christoph Waltz. His character is Hans or Hans Landa. I think it's Hans Landa. Probably butchered it with this stuffy ass nose. That is easily like one of my top 3 favorite performances of any movie by an actor. It is Christoph Waltz as Colonel Landa in this. Of course, you get Eli Roth as the Bear Jew. You get tons of great stuff in this movie. First time I saw it, it was life-changing. In fact, I talked about the poison coffee scene in this with the music. There's a scene in this with the French girl, Shoshana. She's having lunch with all these Nazis about having this new film shown at her theater. And then Landa comes up and he puts his hand on her shoulder. And we as the audience, we know what their relationship is from earlier in the film. And there's just this anxiety-filled, heart-pounding music as she realizes who that is. It's like this. First time I saw that, I had to rewind it and watch it again. I was like, oh, fuck, that is intense. But, so yeah, that's my favorite. So now just to discuss Quentin Tarantino, I mean, he's known for his very authentic dialogue. Like in Pulp Fiction, once the opening credits end, and it's just Vincent and Jules sitting in a car, talking about the differences between like American McDonald's and movie theaters and Europe's. And it's just two guys bullshitting. They're on their way to do a hit. They're on their way to kill somebody in their apartment, and they're just bullshitting with each other. And that's another thing about Tarantino is he has this great way of creating this dialogue that just gets you involved with these characters. Like the dialogue will have nothing to do with the film. It's just these two characters behaving the way they would if, just normally. And we get to see it as an audience. He's wonderful at writing dialogue like that. There's two scenes in this, like in Hateful Eight. Like Tarantino writes like speeches. Oh, also in Django. In Django, it's the skull with the dimple speech. In this, it's the speech about stew. Oh, Samuel Jackson can always taste if stew is made by certain people. And in this, it's the opening scene where Landa is talking about, how Nazis are hawks and Jews are rats and where would they hide and look. It's just like you're wondering where the hell these characters are coming up with these, like, why they're giving these speeches, and then they manage to, like, deliver a point that has to do with the plot. And it's just like, that was so beautifully written and executed. And another thing is his violence. His violence is always crazy. Like, whether it be crazy blood squibs or scalpings in Inglourious Bastards, or, we don't see the ear getting cut off in Reservoir Dogs, but it's implied, which can be a little bit more stylized. Of course, Kill Bill. I mean, these I'm just holding this up because it was sitting in front of me. Of course, we get the scene in the pawn shop in this. It's like he makes some disturbing shit. Some very violent shit. Like, at the end of this, there is so much blood in that room. So his writing, like his characters and his dialogue, his violence, and then I'd say his music. He is so perfect. Like, really, the only person I would say is better or as good would be Scorsese. Scorsese and Tarantino would be the top guys that know how to use songs to make a scene perfect. Scorsese won't use a song if the scene takes place before it was released. Tarantino, if it looks and sounds good, like it fits, he'll use it. That's why there's hip hop in Django. But whether it's songs or whether it's unused or even used pieces of music from old, like 50s, 60s, 70s movies or TV shows, like that music I was talking about in Inglourious Bastards, the duh, duh, duh. That's from like a 1981 supernatural horror film called The Entity. The piece of music is called Bath Attack, and it's by composer Charles Bernstein. Or, like, a lot of the music from Hateful Eight is because Ennio Morricone does the score for Hateful Eight. He also did the score for John Carpenter's The Thing, which a lot of this is unused music from The Thing, like the Poison Coffee. He really knows how to amplify a scene with music, and it's beautiful how it works. Like, I get chills watching some scenes where it's just like that song or that music fits so well. But yeah, his next movie, which comes out this August, I'm really stoked. My brother and I are big Tarantino fans, so we're gonna go see it. For those that don't know, it's called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I always said Once Upon a Time in America. That's a Robert De Niro movie that I really enjoy. It's supposed to be like Pulp Fiction, but in the 60s, with like the Manson murders as like the backdrop. Margot Robbie's gonna play Sharon Tate. It's gonna have Brad Pitt and DiCaprio teaming up, so that's gonna be awesome. I will say the only gripe I have about this, bringing up Brad Pitt, is his southern accent. I don't really like when actors do accents. That's the only gripe I have with this. But, see, I'm very excited. Supposedly, Tarantino is going to retire after his 10th film, which we're kind of getting a freebie because he counts both Kill Bills as one. So, we're actually going to get 11. I hope he doesn't. He comes out with one This might be one of the longest breaks. You know, every 3 or 4 to 5 years, he comes out with one, which is awesome. And I'm a, I'm a huge fan of his. I always have been ever since like the first when I saw. Yeah, Death Proof I don't really like, but I can say I really enjoy all these. Especially with this being my top 3. But anyway, that's my Tarantino, my Quentin Tarantino. Obviously, how many Tarantinos are there? My Quentin Tarantino collection, ranking, and discussion video with my stuffy ass nose. From room 237, I'm out. Thank you.